Hello, welcome to Geeking Out with Shad. Today I am going to do the driving review of the ID.4. I've been meaning to do one, so I'm going to get in and let's do a driving review and see how this thing drives. Of course, I already know how it drives, but I'll talk to you about how it drives. And the radio's on. Awesome. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, here we go. So I just got in. What's interesting about this car is I don't have to push a start button. As long as I got the key in my pocket, I can open the door. I just push my foot on the brake pedal and the car starts. Kind of cool, but just not something I'm used to. Let's clear the windshield. It just rained a little bit, so now we got this shifter, and I talked about this in my other video, but you basically turn it back to go into reverse, forward to go into drive, forward again to go into regenerative braking or one pedal driving mode, and we'll talk about that when I'm driving. If I want to go in neutral, I just twist it back, but it seems like it kind of jumps around. No, it doesn't go into drive. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's an interesting interface, but it's somewhat intuitive once you know where the shifter is. it works, and if you want to go backwards, what I like is you twist it backwards, right? And then we have the rear camera, which is cool. Gives us some alerts to the back. Not true aerial view like the Bolt, which we see in front of me, but kind of a fake aerial view, or digital aerial view I should say. And then these proximity sensors will go off. If you saw my video about the bike rack on the back, this is the thing I'm talking about, where it was setting off alarms and then it would slam on the brakes because I had a bike rack on the back. Kind of a weird problem. So I'm not going to go over all the controls. This is about driving the car. So we just started. I'm backing out of the driveway, and let's do that and get on the road. So if you are a traditionalist and you like how like a normal automatic transmission car works, then if this is in the D setting, that's what this car will do. When I let off the accelerator, the car just keeps going and rolling. It doesn't slow down. In order to slow down, I have to put on the brakes. There is some regeneration when putting on the brakes, but not as much as if you go into regenerative braking or one pedal driving mode, and that's the mode I prefer to drive in. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to that, where it shows B there. Now when I let off the accelerator, the car slows down, but this car does not come to a complete stop like the Bolt does. The Bolt, when you let off the gas or the accelerator, this habit of calling it the gas, let off the accelerator, the car comes to a complete stop. This car comes down to about 3 miles per hour and just keeps rolling, so you have to hit the brake at that last little bit. The regeneration is relatively aggressive, so you know, it slows down pretty good. I haven't hit the brake yet, and then here we go, and now it just kind of rolls and rolls. So I can just sit here and roll and then hit the brake when I need to. Now if I hold the brake, it'll go into this auto hold mode and I can let go of the brake. Now I can go and I can just, you know, the nice thing is there's pedestrians, and I can just let off the accelerator and slow down and let them cross and then go. Like, I don't even have to use the brake, unless of course I was closer. I'd want to use the brake so I don't spook them, right? Another pedestrian here, I'm actually having to use the brake because I'm much closer, and then I can hold. She's happy I stopped, unlike the other guy with the truck that didn't care. So now I'm back up to speed. This car is all-wheel drive. It's a dual motor all-wheel drive car, and it has more power. I'll put the power here on the screen because I just don't recall what it is, but it is much more powerful than the Bolt. And when you get dual motor versions of cars, they're pretty insane actually. And so since I have, well, I'm gonna hold off because there's a truck right there, but all right, now since I have space in front of me, I'm gonna stab on the accelerator. Yeah. This thing is insane. That wasn't very legal of me, but I mean, it is crazy fast. I used to own a Camaro, 2012 Camaro, and that car was fast. This car is equally as fast, if not a little quicker, especially since it's got all-wheel drive. It doesn't have any slippage, so it's insane. So we're gonna get on the highway in a minute here. Driving is super smooth. The steering tightens up when you get up to more speed, and when you're going slow speeds, the steering is super light and easy. Most cars do that now, as we, you know, have this variable steering. It's usually electric assist or whatever. I don't know if it's hydraulic assist. I guess I could look that up. Like a traditional fuel or power steering pump, usually hydraulic, but I think on these cars it's electric assist. But I can look that up. I'll put that on the screen too. Now I'm stopped. I can let off the brake. I had to use the brake to stop. Now I let off, and it just sits here and holds, so my foot can be on the accelerator and ready to go. Right? Pretty cool. Well, let's get on the highway and talk about that a little bit. First things first about getting on the highway. With this car, ridiculously easy, and you actually have to be careful because you can actually like accelerate at a pretty insane amount of speed, so you got to watch your speed. So here we go. I want to be up to 60, so I'm just gonna get there. Like, I'm already at 70. There's a car merging in there, one merging in there, and I can just fit in the gap. Like, that's what I like about cars with power, is you can find that gap and just get yourself into the gap. Notice that it's showing me a little symbol below the speed, showing me that I'm too close to the car in front of me. I do not like to tailgate. For a brief moment I did there, but I like to back off right away. So I kind of like that indicator actually, because it's a reminder to be like, okay, I'm too close, so on and so forth. So yeah, this car, all right, so here's another thing. We got plenty of space in front of us for that truck. I don't see anything else. We're going 60, 62. I'm gonna floor it. Well, not anymore. Let's get in that lane. I'm gonna floor it. Right here, I gotta pay attention to what's going on ahead of me, but watch this. It is insane. And see, this truck wants to change lanes, so why he's sitting over in the left lane in the first place, who knows? People drive like crap these days. So, you know, you do have to be careful when you have a car that has this kind of power and speed, because, you know, especially in traffic like I showed there, you know, that truck doesn't know I'm going like almost 80 miles per hour. You know, they're not gonna know that. So it's my job, if I'm gonna be doing idiotic things like that, to be aware and slow down and make sure that stuff doesn't happen. So yeah, calling myself out there. Anyway, so now cruising, the speed limit here is 60, by the way, and cruising at a nice 65. Car cruises nice. It's super smooth. I love it. Handles really nice. It's tight, like it's sporty. This is the Pro S, so the S does stand for sport, so it's the sportier version of the ID.4, and it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna change lanes and get off the freeway here and talk a bit more about how this car drives. So I've driven quite a few electric cars. Well, let's just say, what, 5 different ones, 6 different ones. So I have the original Bolt EV. Now I have the Bolt EUV. I've driven this. I've driven a Tesla Model Y and a Tesla Model 3. Very similar feeling cars. Model Y being a little heavier. And I've driven a Polestar 2. So I actually have this car kind of, I can put it in comparison to those cars, and I would say this one's a bit closer to like the Tesla and the Polestar 2. Maybe not quite up to the driving of those cars. The Polestar 2, you know, as much as this one is ridiculous accelerating, the Polestar 2, I felt like it was faster than the Tesla. I'll have to look up the numbers, but that car felt insanely fast. There was another dual motor. All the cars, with the exception of the Bolt EV and the Bolt EUV, have been dual motor, all-wheel drive. So comparing to the Bolt is what I would consider like the economy car of EVs. It's not designed to be sporty, but EVs naturally are just going to be more sporty than the gas counterpart to that car. So if I compared the Bolt to like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, it's way more sporty than those cars, and it kind of falls into the similar category when you think about it. So yeah, but this car, it's super, drives super nice, and that is actually a Volkswagen trait. Like, if you've driven a Volkswagen, there's just something about the way they drive and the way they handle that is, you know, they call it German engineering, whatever you want to call it. They do a really good job, and other car companies have actually strived to get to that feeling, just because it is, the cars handle really nice, but they still drive smooth. Like, so like for a car to handle really good, usually you have to tighten up the suspension and make it really rough, and then the car drives crappy, but it handles really good. But somehow, you know, Volkswagens, you know, Audis, those cars, even BMWs, they've figured out how to make the car ride nice but still handle good. And so other car companies, you know, I'd say they're getting there. They've gotten much better at it, to making cars handle like German cars. And I would say this car, you know, meets those goals. It's definitely a German handling car. Like, going around this corner, I mean, I slow down some, but it just, I know right where it is. I know right where it's placed in the road. I even made the tires make a little bit of noise there, but I know where the limits are. That's like the important part. I mentioned I've had a Camaro before. It was pretty hard to know where the limits of the Camaro. I had to learn them and figure that car out. This car, I can just get into and know where the limits are right away. Similar to like what a Mazda Miata, you know, everybody praises that car because you can just feel the car, right? So this car falls into that category. You can really feel it. I'm pretty impressed with how it steers and so on and so forth. And it's fast, so it is a sporty car. It's a SUV or crossover, whatever you want to call it, but it feels good. It's sporty. So you can see that there's a little turn indicator thing on the mirror there. There's one on the outside too, and then of course I have the turn indicator on the dashboard. It has a pleasant sound to it. I don't know if I talked about the sound of the one in the Bolt, but the Bolt has like just a terrible like cling. I even wonder if they have the old little flexing piece of metal that turn indicators use, and it's actually one of those devices that uses a little magnet. It sounds like that, but if they're trying to electronically create that sound, they did a pretty good job of making it sound terrible. This one, nice and pleasant. Oh my gosh, this, I mean, I'm just getting pushed back into the seat. Pretty insane. It's fun, gotta say that. Plenty of traction. It'll be nice to just see how this car handles in snow. Of course, the plan will be to put actual snow tires on it. That's just, for me, that's mandatory. You gotta do snow tires in the winter if you live in an area like Minnesota. Alright, if I have an opportunity here, we'll do a full-on acceleration from a stop. I'll only do it if it's safe to do so and traffic is clear in front of me. But yeah, full-on mat it to the floor acceleration. And there's a BMW next to me that will not win this battle. Here we go. Oh gosh, That's to 60. Wow, that's impressive. And this isn't even like a fast EV. There's EVs that do under 4 seconds 0 to 60, under 3 seconds 0 to 60s, and those you can really feel it in the chest. But for like your normal commuter car, this is kind of ridiculous. This car does give you indicators if you have someone in your blind spot, which I do like. You see them on the inside of the mirror. Let's see here. See the yellow light that comes on, and that's kind of cool. The Bolt also does that, but it's actually on the mirror itself. This one I like it because it stands out a little bit more, and you can tell if there's a car in your blind spot. Pretty cool. So it's pretty quiet in here. The car is pretty quiet. I don't hear a lot of outside noise. I don't hear much wind noise, things like that. It's a pretty aerodynamic shape. There is an ambulance a little ways behind me, and I could hear it. So that's important. Like, you need to be able to hear the important stuff. So I like that. It turned off, I believe, so I don't have to get out of the way, because it kind of sucked to have to get out of the way of an ambulance in this construction zone. But yep, check in, it's gone. But I could hear it, which is important, because I don't like cars that close you off too much to the outside world, because it's a safety thing for me. So again, people, if they have the radio cranked or something, they're not going to hear the important things. So I tend to not do that either. But yep, this car drives awesome. So as funky as the controls are, and I've talked about the controls in this car and how you have to go to the screen to do climate and stuff like that, the way this car drives is on the opposite end. It's an excellent driver's car, and there really are very few complaints that I have. In fact, so few that I really haven't had a complaint yet. I mean, I guess if I was to get nitpicky, I would like the one pedal driving to stop the car completely and me not having to have to hit the brake. I don't know why they designed it that way. I like it when the car comes to a complete stop and then I never have to use the brake. But for some reason, Volkswagen designed it this way. I'm used to it. It almost comes to a complete stop, so it's not bad. And I can, for the most part, use the accelerator to adjust my speed to where I rarely ever have to reach over and touch the brake. Okay, so I just went and got my Starbucks, and that reminds me, one of the quirky things that I don't like about this car is that when you get in it, the seat goes back, or I guess when you get out it goes back, and then when you get in it, the seat moves forward. And it's kind of one of these things like, oh, like we're gonna make it easier for you to get in the car, but it's just one of those mechanical things I'm not a huge fan of. It's like I sit down, as soon as I push my foot on the brake, the seat moves forward. It's weird. And the passenger seat also does that. I'm sure people love these kind of features, but I would like the ability to like at least turn it off, and maybe there is the ability to do that. If there is, I'm gonna do it. I gotta look through the menu. If anybody knows how to turn it off, let me know. And the other thing that I notice is that it isn't consistent. It doesn't always go back to where I last had it adjusted. So I've literally had to readjust the seat, so it's buggy. It doesn't do exactly as you would expect it to always go back to where it was. And there was one time I got in the car and it like moved to like way back away from the steering wheel. It wasn't even like normal. A couple of the other little buggy things this car does that they need to work out, hopefully it's just software updates, is there's been times when I've gone to roll down the window, or roll up the window, sorry, and the window's gone down instead of up. It's only happened a few times, but it's definitely happened enough for me to be like, well, that's kind of buggy. But then when I do it again, then it goes up, right? So it's not like broken per se, but it's like I go to roll the window up and then it goes down instead of up, and then I do it again and then it goes up. So really strange, things like that. So Volkswagen definitely has a few bugs to work out, that's for sure. And this whole seat moving thing, hopefully I can find a setting and turn it off. Cool. All right, let's get back out on the road to conclude this video. It does a pretty good job of reversing out of spots because it gives me a warning. I just missed it on the video, but a car was going by and it beeped at me and showed me before I backed out, which was kind of nice. And it does it for pedestrians, which I feel like is even more important, and so on and so forth. So the slow speed maneuvering, the steering gets really light, which is kind of nice. And it requires more movement, which is kind of how it works ratio wise. It changes, and then when you get up to speed, it tightens up and becomes more sporty. So it's like variable adjusted steering, which is super nice. I love it when cars do that. There's even gas powered cars that do that. It's just a super nice feature because then you can have light steering for when you're parking and things like that, or doing slow maneuvering. But then when you get out to higher speed stuff, the car becomes tighter handling and more sporty, and so on and so forth. So and it's super well done in this car. So if you don't know this, Volkswagen actually owns Porsche. It's kind of one of these things where a lot of the stuff I'm talking about does kind of trickle down into these cars. But yeah, little thing that some people don't know. Audi, Porsche, Volkswagen, all the same company. All right, somebody really helped me out with this one. Is it Porsche or Porsche? I've heard it said both ways, and to this day I still don't know the correct way to say it. Specify in the comments, let me know, how do you say it, Porsche or Porsche? Okay, so there you have it, the driving review of the VW ID.4 Pro S dual motor. So the single motor may have a lot of similar steering and driving characteristics, but it's not going to have the power that this one has. So just be aware of that. It's not as powerful, not as fast. It's just rear wheel drive, and so on and so forth. This is the dual motor Pro S. Wow, you have to be on your toes in this world driving. So there you have it, ending my driving review. Those are very rare. You won't see them. That is not a Miata. That is a Fiat. I forget what they call it, but it's based on the Miata, but it's actually a Fiat. You don't see many of them around. I don't even know how many of them they made. Cool. All right, let's conclude this video. There you have it. That is my driving review of the Volkswagen ID.4 Pro S. Says so right there. Pretty sweet driving car. I really like how the Bolt EUV drives. This is like a step above. It definitely falls more into that, just more refined, you know, car. Like, I wouldn't say the Bolt EV drives like a Chevrolet. I would say it's definitely more upscale than what you would typically expect out of a Chevrolet. But then this is definitely more upscale, above and beyond that. So, and keep in mind the EUV actually drives much nicer and smoother and stuff than the Bolt EV. The Bolt EV is definitely, to me, feels more like a sporty kind of twitchy car, versus the EUV is more plush. Oh, awesome. Nice background noise. So, and this is more plush, but I would say this handles a little tighter, a little better. Obviously way quicker than the Bolt EUV. I wouldn't say the Bolt EUV is slow for like what I would consider a general commuter car. It's pretty fun and quick, but this just kind of blows it away, and for good reason. It's a lot more expensive, it's got more power, it's got all-wheel drive, things like that. So there you have it. If you really like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Oh, and you know you've locked the car when this happens. The mirrors go in. That's pretty cool.